At Bath Savings, you know us for our exceptional customer service. And that service extends to our secure online and mobile banking solutions, so you can feel comfortable accessing and managing your accounts wherever you are. And it's all backed by the same personalized customer service from neighbors right here in your community. To learn more about Bath Savings online and mobile banking solutions, visit bathsavings.com. Bath Savings, your neighbor, your bank.
Hager Enterprises, a paving and excavation contractor specializing in all sorts of site work, utility installations, and road construction since 1987.
Hello, everyone. I'm Larry Seidlinger, Executive Director here at Lincoln County Television. But my fun part of my job is to be able to talk to you folks at home and do interviews and whatnot. So we came up with this great idea. We think it's a great idea at LCTV is to do high school hoops, a show that, Damascotta area, the Midcoast area is high school basketball crazy. So we thought we'd come up with a high school hoops. We're going to have special guests. We're going to have radio announcers. We're going to have coaches. We're going to have people that are just basketball groupies like myself. So every Monday night at 7 o'clock, LCTV will present high school hoops, and you never know who we're going to have. We're going to have referees and, like I said, reporters and all kinds of fun stuff. We're going to have an analytics guy, Lucas McNelly from Maine Basketball Rankings is going to be here. Charlie Crockett, Hall of Fame announcer, is going to be here. So it's going to be a lot of fun. I hope you'll join us every Monday night at 7 o'clock. It's going to be on the YouTube channel as well as lctv.org and Channel 7. So this week, our first guest our guest host is going to be John Duke from Camden Rockport. He's our Camden Windjammer, true blue all the way through, and our high school first coach at high school, longtime basketball coach, Nick DePatsy. So let's get to it, folks, and do some high school hoops. So our first show, my co-host is Mr. John Duke, legendary Celtic podcaster. He's now in Rockport, big Camden Rockport booster, big Windjammer booster. And our first guest is coach, longtime Madomic Valley High School coach, winningest basketball coach at Madomic Valley, Mr. Nick DePatsy. Thank you, Nick, for setting in with us. First show of high school hoops.
All right, I'm ready.
So he's ready. So he's on the hot seat. We have Coach DePatsy on the hot seat. And I've already had people say, can you wind him up so we can see some of his actions on the sideline? And I promise it won't. There are actually literally people waiting for Nick to come unglued at a bad call. But I said, he's getting old. He's mellowing. But we'll see.
It's a new me.
It's a new you. 400 wins does that to you, right?
Now it's called getting old.
First question, Nick. You had a great season this summer season. What are your expectations for your team this year?
We did. We had a great summer. Fortunately, I have kids that love the game of basketball, that respect each other, respect the game. They're very, very easy kids to coach. And they're all about trying to get better each and every day, each and every game, each and every practice. And it's fun when you're coaching kids like that. And I think their chemistry is good. I think they understand their roles. I mean, you're always I've had some great teams in the past, no question about it. I've had some great players, but the thing with this group is they're all on board. They're all there for each other. The parents are very supportive. It's a great group of parents. When that all ties in and there's no, finger pointing like I've had certain years, it makes it easy and you can have a lot of fun. Whether you win it or not, you're still enjoying what you do.
I know John Duke is waiting to ask you some questions, Coach. So I'm going to let you have the floor for a second, Mr. Duke.
So, Nick, you've had a lot of success, obviously 400 wins. How do you get a group of kids there's already talk about how far they're going to go, and you've gone very far, very, very far. How do you keep, I mean, obviously your season hasn't started yet, but how do you keep the lid on that so that their focus just really in the here and now, this practice, this game?
Yeah, it's basically what I just talked about, one game at a time and one day at a time. But sometimes it's easier to handle that when the kids' ego is in check. And sometimes when kids' egos aren't in check, it's a lot more difficult. But these kids, I don't see any egos. I just see very unselfish basketball players. They have one goal in mind. They wanted to win and everything they could this summer, and they did. Winning is important to them, but I think also the fact that camaraderie and just the chemistry and just trying to get better, not only individually, but as a team. I think that's their biggest goal. And I think they realize that if that can happen, good things will happen at the end.
Coach, you've got every other coach along the coast here, and probably in the Class B, talking about your team this year because you got an addition. And he's not only just an addition; he's somebody that's close to your family. There's transferred Madomic, and there's some questions. Tell us a little bit about your new 4 or 5 man.
Rocco is my nephew. He, my younger brother's youngest son. He's about 6'5", 6'6". Yeah, my brother has always said, I'm going to move back to the camp and make it my residency. I'm going to live there, blah, blah, blah. And then he can go to either Lincoln or Madomic. Well, he said this for 6 years. So he said it again this past spring, and I ignored him. And I said, because his brothers do, we banter back and forth and give each other crap all the time. But I just didn't believe him. And then all of a sudden, yeah, he started making changes where he was living, got rid of this house, that house, whatever. And then he made his camp on Damariscotta Lake, his residency. And next thing I know, he's showing up, with 3 or 4 weeks left in the summer and has jumped right in and is enrolled at Madomic and is doing a great job. Kids have accepted him. He's a very quiet kid. He's not a kid that's going to come in and say, it's all about me. He's not like that at all. He's very unselfish. Thank God he takes after his mother and not his father. But he's fit right in. The kids have done a great job bringing him into the whole group. So he's been a good addition.
What's that going to do to how does that change the chemistry of your offense where you've been, you've got big guy can shoot from outside and run the floor. You've got some great point guards, 2 shooters, number two position. How does that change your inside game?
As you know, the game of basketball has changed since that 3-point line went down. The inside game, back to the basket stuff, it's sad, but you don't see it as much. But I think we can take advantage of that with our 2 bigs, and I think we will at times. But, Rocco and Gabe can get out. They can run the floor. They can rebound. They both can shoot from the perimeter. And I got guards that can do the same thing and post up. So we're not going to really change a lot. He's got to adapt to us, which I think he will and can do. And we're just going to go at it the way we always do. I'm not giving any secrets away.
John's waiting to ask you one, I know.
Not that there is any secrets.
So I'm keeping these down for Coach Gabriel, just so pass it on for the 2 games you guys are going to play against each other.
Well, we got Coach Gabriel coming up here in another week or so. So there you go, John. There's your opening.
Well, I was just speaking of as a bleeding red and white windjammer. Last year we had just one game. There was just one game that Camden Hills played with Madomic. I think it was at the Panther Dome, as somebody on this broadcast likes to call it. But there's this is the year when we return to that. What's it like to, or I guess, I think the state of Midcoast basketball is as strong as it's been. Looking at where your team has gone over the summer, but Oceanside won't be the same this year, but they're still going to be a real force to contend with. Cannon Hills won its first Class A playoff game last year. They're on the rise. Um, what's the state of Midcoast basketball? How does it compare to what you're seeing from other pockets of the state where, you're seeing some of these kids that are going to prep schools and, a Messalonsky, for example, which I think would have been the Class A favorite. Their big kid, Merrick Smith, decides to go to prep, and that changes the whole face of whether it is. Whereas the Midcoast kids generally, aside from the Breen girls, have generally stayed here and played through.
Yeah, I've always thought the Midcoast has had a lot of talent over the years. I think Southern Maine gets more of the hype just because of the area that they're in. But I mean, you've got some. I mean, you had two kids, the two twins, the Galley boys last year that were up for Mr. Basketball. In years past, I could go on and name different kids that we've had. Camden's had a ton of kids. Oceanside's had they're always good. I mean, even when I played, Rockland was good. I don't know what it is over there with the genetics, but they just seem to pump out athletes after athletes after athletes every single year.
Well, they could say the same about Madomic Valley too, Nick, because
Yeah,
I've heard that in the past.
I want to talk about the other teams. No, and we're the same way. I agree. We've got some great athletes. We've got a lot of three-sport athletes. We got kids that take pride in what they do, depending on what sport they're playing. So I think all three schools, and you even got to throw Lincoln Academy in there. I mean, you've got some great talent just here at home, and a lot of it is self-made. They've done it themselves. They don't get the recognition I think they deserve. The Breen girls, they have, and they well deserve it. I mean, those two girls can play, and they can play at a high level. The kid that comes to my mind from Camden would be Tyler McFarland playing Division II. I mean, could he have played it all? No, I think he could have, but that's me. But yeah, we've had a lot of talent, and I think we will have a lot of talent. We've got some facilities around here now where these kids can go and play. The AAU, of course, is big. I'm not really a big fan of AAU, but it does get kids on the court. It gets them playing. So yeah, I think there's a lot of opportunities for all these kids in this area to get better, and I think we've had a lot of talent.
Nick, how you've mentioned AAU? How does AAU, or how has that changed the high school game, where these kids are seeing, well, like the last boy on your team played on that Cooper Flag 16 and under team that went all the way to the Nationals. He got a chance to see what basketball was in Texas and the Carolinas and Florida and all over the country. But how is AAU, where these kids are traveling? Has that improved the game or changed the way you coach the game?
I know when my son and daughter played, they played AAU. I mean, and I'm guilty of it, but they were fortunate. They played with some very good coaches that really cared about the kids and weren't in it for the money. I think sometimes you got to worry about the money aspect because it does get very expensive, and sometimes that comes into it with coaches and dealing with different AAU programs, which is unfortunate. But overall, no, I think the competition, playing against good competition, is great. I think sometimes these kids get false hopes from certain coaches. I'm not the type of person that's going to do that. I'm not going to tell every kid on my team they're going to play Division I because they're not. I mean, I'm going to be very upfront with them. I'm going to tell them the truth, in my opinion, and they can go from there. But you want kids to have dreams. You want kids to have goals. So in your question for AAU, I don't think AAU has really hurt the game. I think it's a lot of playing, up and down, up and down, up and down, a lot of scrimmaging. Coaches, I think, in the high school scene, more or less as a fly buzzing around my ear here, they tend to stick with the skills and the program aspect and, trying to get their program and team better, where, of course, if you take the best kid from this school, that school, and this school, put them together and go play, you're going to be good. I mean, my mother could coach them and they're going to be good. I mean, it's just the way it is. Talent will overcome. And so I think, it's hit or miss with AAU. I think there's been a lot of good situations for kids out there. And I think some kids have had some bad situations. So, and I've seen both sides. So I'm kind of like in the middle. I guess that's about where I stand with that. But will it help the team? Yeah, I think so. I think like with Gabe Lash, he knew we weren't going to play a lot on that team, but I think for him it was a great experience.
Oh my gosh, yes.
Just going to play with those kids, and he knows these kids, and he's got one kid that's going to be in the NBA next year, and it did make him better. I think it humbled him a little bit as a high school player. I know he's one of the best defensive players I've ever coached. I've coached a lot of good kids.
You
And
think
it's
it
not
opened his eyes to how to Gabe, especially how hard he has to work, or how hard you have to work to be as good as a Cooper Flag. And he played with probably a half a dozen future NBA players that were on that team, 16,
right. Yeah.
against NBA players.
So there's a good experience for someone, in my opinion. Even though he didn't play a lot, he still got to practice with them, got to see different things, got to see how they play the game, how they look at the game. Got a little different aspect from different coaches. And fortunately for him, he had guys that coaching him that were very good coaches. So, I mean, so there is some good sides of everything, I guess, in life, but then there's also some bad sides.
Yeah. John?
Well, I just spent the Indigenous Peoples Day weekend up in Canada watching my son play some Canadian college teams. And this is my first experience with seeing a lot of games with a shot clock. In the US, they use a 30-second shot clock. Up there, there's 24-second shot clock, just like the NBA, and only 7 seconds to get over the half court line. What what stands in the way of that? Because I watching the tournament last year, and you've seen it, it becomes a stall ball game more often than not. When you've got a 5, 6, 6, 8, 10 point game, well, let's just run clock off this, and then with the new foul rules of 5 fouls, sometimes in the fourth you're not going to be in the bonus. It seems like the game is crying out for a shot clock to make more of the game play like the game. But what are your thoughts and about generally the shot clock, and how far away are we from that sort of added
Um,
addition to the game
Yeah, I
locally?
don't I don't know how far away we are, but I do know like changes like with the two-shot foul, 5 fouls each quarter. Everyone was complaining at first, but I think that change has come in and I think everyone's adapted to it and made their adjustments. And I think it's worked out well. I know if we had it 10 years ago when my son played, we might have had a gold ball, but um, the 1-and-ones put a lot more pressure on them. And you miss the front end of a 1-and-one, then you know, and there's no back end. At least this way, the kids realize they got two foul shots. But getting back to, so I don't think that change has hurt anything. I think it's made it better. As far as the shot clock, the only thing I see with the shot clock is a lot of coaches have read reaction type offenses. Some coaches have continuity. I personally like to do all my drills and in practice that will adjust to kids making decisions with a read and react type of offense. So the only thing with a shot clock is there's going to be more quick hitters put in. There's going to be more sets put in. And then I think with high school kids, are a lot of them, can they run those? Can they run all these different sets? Yeah, some can, some can't. So I think you're going to see some bad basketball come out of that because there's going to be a little bit of hurry up type of style with their offense. I don't think fast break and runouts and all that's going to change. I still think they're going to do the same thing. But I just think with the shot clock, I think it's an adjustment. I think if it comes into effect, whether it be 20, it won't be 24 seconds, but it'll probably be 35 or whatever. I think that they become adjusted to it. I think it'll be fine. I think you'll see, not that there's not bad shots taken now because they're kids, they're going to take bad shots, but I think you'll see more bad shots taken. I think you'll see a little more turnover, a few more turnovers at first. And I think after a time, I think you can get adjusted to it. And I think it'll work out fine. But like I said, kids are going to have to learn a lot more sets and quick hitters and things like that, which at the college level, you're bringing all these kids that are good players from this school and this school and that state and that state. It's easier to do. High school is a little different. So that would be a big adjustment for coaches and kids that I could see. But other than that, I think it'd be fine.
Nick, let's turn to this upcoming season. You've got Rockland, Oceanside, I should say, and Camden and Lincoln. Everybody's going to be competitive. Everybody's going to be good. You got a bullseye on your back
Oh,
this year. I think people are
well,
expecting Madomic Valley to go a long way this year, but you also got the Ellsworth and the RNOs that you got to look at too. That in the state tournament you could see.
yeah, I mean, Lincoln's going to be very good. I mean, they were down for quite a few years, but I think Ryan's done a great job building that program up. They had a lot of success last year. And I think that's going to carry over to this year, and that's a credit to him. He's put a lot of time in, and he's really developed that program into an elite program. And like I said, that's a credit to him. So they're going to be good. I don't care what anyone says. Oceanside is always going to be good. I know they lost the Twins, and their center transferred, but they still got one of the best athletes around that's going to be playing. They got great shooters. And then Camden Rockport's always good, great tradition. They made the tournament last year, won a tournament game. They got one of the best guards, I think, around with Nolan Ames. And they got a bunch of kids around them that role play. And I think they're going to be very good. So, and when you play these area schools that are close, sometimes you just got to flip a coin because it all depends on who shows up. And I think it doesn't come down a lot of times to effort and skill and ability. I think it comes down to mental toughness. And I think sometimes when teams lose, people will say, "Oh, this kid didn't shoot well." I think a lot of it has to do with just mental. Mental. They're kids, they're gonna make decisions. And when they make good decisions, boy, they look good. And
They do.
sometimes when they don't.
They don't. Let's move up the coast just a little bit further. Belfast is going through a little bit of a transformational situation up there where they've got a new transfer, a new coach. Do you see that program maybe
Oh yeah.
surprising a few people this
They
year?
got a couple other kids come in too for
They
guards.
do. Talk to
Kid
us a little bit about that.
from Hamden moved in, and a kid from Searsport. They're going to be very good. And they got the JV team. I thought was very decent, very good last year. Got some kids up from the JV team, so yeah, they're going to be a very different team, very different style team. So there's not going to be any cakewalk with them. And then, of course, if you go down south and you got Yarmouth and York, um, same old teams that are going to be in there looking to knock any of us out. So it's not going to be easy.
In Orono, the defending state champion,
Yep.
very well coached team.
Yep.
They're,
Yeah,
they're
they are.
not they're not going to be any slouches this year either.
Nope. Nope. They got 5, 6, 7 really good players back. I know they lost a lot too, but yeah, it's tradition and knowing how to win is a big thing. And they've done it 2 years in a row. So you can't say they're not going to be out of the picture because they're not.
John, you got something, Coach?
Caribou's
Well,
gonna be
and I also add Old Town to that, and Byther, strong player as well. I mean, there's, Caribou's going to be. It's Class B is. While I'm not just saying this because Nick's here. I do think this team has looked as strong as any I've seen in a whole bunch of classes over the summer and this fall. But it's fascinating to watch the Class B tournament because you watch from the quarterfinals on. There's good games, whether you're in the Expo or you're at the Cross, whatever that one is named in Bangor. It's not the auditorium anymore. We know that. It's just fascinating, and it should be a lot of fun. What about a dark horse? You got a dark horse team that maybe has been that you've seen or is coming up on the rise, maybe any class to speak of, but who's a team
absolutely.
on the rise?
Class A, you got Camden, dark horse. Class B, you got Lincoln Academy and Oceanside. Those are your dark horses. They're right next door, rivals. I mean, they're gonna be very good. So I don't as far as Class D and C, I don't know. I know Winthrop's gonna be a lot better this year.
What do you think Booth Bay is going to be down there? Dan's working hard.
Yeah, they're always competitive. Their numbers are down a little bit, but I think they're coming back up, and he does a great job playing a lot in the summer and with his program. And I know he said his Pee-wee's numbers were up, so that's good for the future for him. I'm trying to think. uh, Class B, it's going to be tough. There's at least 9 or 10 teams.
I think Class B is going to be the division to watch in high school basketball this year. You talk about the A's and the C, and Class C, of course, Eastern Maine Class C is always, indeed, can be really, really fun
Yeah.
basketball. I mean, down in the county and up in the county and down east, they get into high school basketball. They always turn out big for the tournaments, and I mean, it's a rite of passage to go to the tournaments. But I think Class B is where the best basketball can be played this year.
And I really miss playing up in Bangor. I mean, I like Portland, but the old Bangor Auditorium, we had a lot of success there, and then in the new building, we had a lot of success there. And I don't know, the crowds, the atmosphere, just it's the bands from MDI and Presque Isle, and I just miss that. I miss it a lot. I think the atmosphere is so much better.
Yeah, I would agree, and I would throw the Civic Center in Augusta in there too, because there was some great battles back in the '80s of all the Madonna games, and '70s and '80s down there. But what a great facility! And I'm not dishing on the NPA, but boy, they've made a mess of how they all do this tournament now. But I will ask you this, and this is a little bit self promotion there. How has there's a lot of TV now. The kids are on TV a lot. I mean, LCTV does 75 odd basketball games in the course of a year, 75 to 100 games. Has that changed how the kids get to watch other kids or watch themselves play? I mean, coaches
Yeah.
can talk about how you played in the game, but you can actually now show them.
Right. Oh yeah, I think as far as scouting and games, as far as watching themselves, I think they can learn from that. Learn from, just watching opponents, see who's coming up. I think it's made it a lot easier. I know back in the day we used to have to get the tapes out and throw it in a VCR and do all that stuff, and that was time consuming. But now they can just go on their phone or whatever, and they can watch it, and I think it does help. I think it helps. Not only does it help, scouting opponents, but I think a lot of these kids like to watch themselves play, and if they see something, you know, something they did wrong, they can say, "Oh yeah, I remember coach telling me that I did that wrong, and I didn't think I did, but I guess I did." So, yeah, I think it helps them become better basketball players if they look at it from a constructive criticism point and not just look at it like all the good. They got to see the bad too,
That
which
was my defensive assignment. I did not switch when I was supposed to.
yeah, right, exactly, stuff like that.
So we got time for some closing thoughts, John.
Well, I'm gonna make this as uncomfortable as I can for Nick.
What's new?
I mean, that's just generally, I saw Nick this past weekend down at the XL Sports Arena, and we're talking about what's going on, and then I go up to my son's game at Central Maine, and I see Nicholas up there, and I'm like, I can't get away from these DePatsis. My kid's gone
Not
on
many
to
of us either.
and he had a terrible call, and I said, I know where you're from, Nicholas. So it was bias, all bias. But no, look, I think Madomic is going to be a load in Class B. I know you guys are saying it's tough. I'll be the uninterested bystander in Class A, saying, look, there's a lot of senior leadership on top of some young guys who are going to step up into big roles. That Nick does a great job getting people when they're young to play a role and succeed. And some of those guys a couple of years ago you had in the tournament and they stepped up, and now they're taking the leadership role. Um, I think it's going to be a good year for Nick. He hates me saying this when I see him in the gym. Oh, Nick, you're the best. No, we're the worst. We're the worst. But I'm telling you, I really think Madomic is going to have a strong, strong year, and I think Madomic Valley fans are going to have a long trip driving to the Expo and number 3 times, and then I don't know where the state championship is game for Class B, but people should be making sure their calendars are blocked out for that first weekend in March because
Nostradamus here we go.
I'm just telling you, you look good, Nick. Just saying.
No,
Those kids
I
are
mean,
doing
there's
great.
no question, but they're very good. They're very talented. They buy into this. They buy into what we're doing. I think we can be very, very successful. We've had, I'll name a couple kids that have just come out of nowhere the past 2 years. Christian Schumann's one that comes to mind. He's developed. He's gotten stronger, quicker. The kid can play the game. He's smart. when you get kids like that blossom, from one year to the next, like he did his sophomore year to his junior year, and now into his senior year. I mean, it makes my job easier, and he's the type of kid that makes kids around him better. V is back to normal. Last year he was hurt most of the year. His quickness and speed is back. Dosty kid's gotten bigger and stronger. I mean, I could go on and on. Luke Cheeseman's gotten bigger and stronger. And then of course you got Gabe. So and Mason Wynn.
Mason Wynn was the kid last year that I thought really came into his own. From when you started him there early in the season, it was maybe a little shaky. But boy, about the third or fourth or fifth game, it didn't take long, and he was a force to contend with on the floor.
Yeah, he was, and he's played a lot. He's put a lot of time in, and he's a very good basketball player. And the thing about him, he's very versatile. You can play him anywhere on the floor. It's kind of like Gabe. Gabe's the same way. And and the addition of my nephew should help with size and getting out on the break, and he can run. He's pretty fast. I don't know if he's going to listen to me all the time, but we'll find that out. And then I got some young sophomores that are coming, up through. So yeah, it should be a fun year, and I'm looking forward to it. And like I said, when you're coaching and you got easy kids to coach, you could go 2-16 and still be happy. Well, not so happy, but
I could never envision a Nick DePatsy happy at 2-16.
Right, no.
See life being very miserable.
Fortunately, I've had a lot of talent, so that's helped me get above that. But yeah, I just think everything can go right if they buy into it and we work together and stay together as a group, which I don't think there's going to be any issues because these kids are, like I said, they're very coachable and they're all pretty good kids that come from pretty good families.
Well, in the words of the immortal Bill Russell, when somebody asked him if he thought he was going to win the championship, he said, "That's why we play the game, to see if we're going to win." Right. So, yeah. Gentlemen, thank you so much for joining us for our first session, our first episode of High School Hoops. Folks, we're going to be back here every Monday night about 7 o'clock, and you can catch us on LCTV and on lctv.org. So thanks for watching. Thank you, Coach Patsy. Thank you, John Duke, and we'll see you next week. Thanks a lot, folks.
At Bath Savings, you know us for our exceptional customer service. And that service extends to our secure online and mobile banking solutions, so you can feel comfortable accessing and managing your accounts wherever you are. And it's all backed by the same personalized customer service from neighbors right here in your community. To learn more about Bath Savings online and mobile banking solutions, visit bathsavings.com. Bath Savings, your neighbor, your bank.
Hager Enterprises, a paving and excavation contractor specializing in all sorts of site work, utility installations, and road construction since 1987.